Hey, what is up guys, C&C3 back to do another video, and today I've got a game on the new map, Tournament Oasis. I'm going to be playing this game as the Scrin faction, and I have an awesome game to showcase. I've got a couple more replays that I want to cast and go over. I am trying to play the game a lot more nowadays. I feel some games I do feel a little bit rusty, but not as bad as I was a while ago. When I finished modding and started playing, yeah, I was pretty bad then, but now I'm getting more into the rhythm of things. I'm not ready yet to challenge Bike Crush and compete with him, but who knows. I'd have to dedicate a lot of time to playing and getting to that level. I don't play any other RTS games, only Kane's Wrath. That could be a disadvantage, but at the same time, instead of choosing to play other games, I decided to spend my time and effort on fixing this one, improving it, trying to fix the bugs. Of course, much of the things I try and do don't end up being in the game. For instance, the reverse move bug fix. I was super excited to announce that I had fixed that, but then later discovered there was a small disadvantage with the fix, and I opted not to apply it to every unit. Now, does the con outweigh the pros? Well, I'm not entirely certain on that, but I deemed it was only necessary for the stealth tank. Hey, I might spend another couple of hours trying to fix it via scripts, but yeah, I've dedicated enough time already to it. There will probably be another update later this month or next month, mostly to address some map issues. There is a problem with one of the 1v1 maps that was released, and the 4v4 map pack has a couple new maps that Your Horse wants me to add, so future updates will mostly involve map updates. There's no going to be compromises to stability. This game no longer crashes or desyncs anymore. This R21, R22 has been adding continuously new features, new bug fixes, and that is never free of risk. There's always the risk of breaking something else if you fix a bug, and the testing was extensive. I'm very grateful to have a community that backs this project, and that accelerates the time that I can get things done, because many games getting played, we're able to test things quickly and uncover potential issues that may arise. Anyways, I've always got things to talk about, guys. Sometimes people don't know what to say in class in the first 2 or 3 minutes, but me, I've never had the time to stop talking. So let's start talking about this game. You may have noticed I went for a foundry before building a refinery. This is a little of an experimentation. I'm not sure if this is a good idea. It might work on maps with 2 spikes, but just the 1 spike, probably not. Usually I go for a crane after my 3rd refinery. The main advantage of crane is you can go for your 3rd while building at the same time. It's not like you can queue units from a warp sphere and 2 build queues simultaneously. You can, but you need a lot of harvesters. I'm also thinking of going for a triple refinery build in the future. Instead of building 10 harvesters, I maybe go for 12 and build 3 refinery on my expansion. That also involves a crane. I'd have to play test it a number of times, maybe in skirmish, figure out what is the best way to do it without leaving myself vulnerable to rushes early on. But I feel like versus Senna, I can improve the macro play. Maybe the best way to play versus Senna is to just be a better macro player, do a better build. Try and do it like 0.1% better. That is mostly the fun in competitive PvP, doing strategies a little bit better than your opponent. And that small percentage takes a long time to get better. You may be able to copy a strategy, but to do it perfectly and to improve upon it, that takes the most time. I'm going for shock troopers now, descents, and gunwalkers. The gunwalkers obviously to counter the hammerheads, but there are a bunch of APCs here, not upgraded with the AP ammo upgrade just yet. Those descents are not particularly useful versus those APC miniguns. However, the gunwalkers can chase and destroy them. I'm going to use the Tiber and vibration scan here. I reveal there are no units with Tiberium stored within, aside from harvesters. This is GDI. If it was Scrin, then we would see more units. We see the Corruptors, we see the Mechapede, we'd see a bunch of stuff. And that's all targetable by the Tiberium Agitation. Anything that can be revealed in a scan is actually targetable by the Tiberium Agitation ability on the Ravager. So I put down a refinery on my third, utilizing that crane to accelerate my macro build. And I've got this army of units, not engaging into my opponent just yet. Some orcs flying for some scouting. They managed to kill a harvester, or they may have actually spared its life, but yep, more orcs coming in. I deemed here was a good phase opportunity, perhaps a mistake in hindsight looking back at this, because now I'm getting attacked by a bunch of APCs and I could have lost a harvester full of Tiberium, which is obviously way more damaging for me. More shock troopers, but the lifespan of shock troopers is now greatly diminishing because he's got AP ammo, he sees the infantry, he's going to be pumping out a lot of APCs and potentially even those hammerheads now with AP ammo. Sniper teams inside of APCs also a lethal combo. Those sniper teams can one-shot kill those shock troopers. Even with the buff the shock troopers have received, they still can die to one shot. I've got an army in the southern field looking to put a pressure on that third field. I see there's no refinery set up there. That's why I'm getting pushed off of my third. This is one thing you can do as a player. You can forego your expansion and just sink all your resources into units and punish your opponent for going extra greedy. And here is no exception. I was punished for being super greedy, and I've lost my refineries on my expansion. I'm going to use the station shield here. I have no choice. I have just a foundry, and I want to keep this drone platform alive. Sell my stasis chamber off, since I no longer need it for the stasis shield. The cooldown on that is quite significant. I can build a mastermind, but that's not nearly as useful as what it is for Traveler with that area mind control. Tripod comes in, I get a crush on a unit there, and I'm anticipating losing this. I'm going to pro down this portal and queue an engineer preemptively. Shock troopers teleport in. I try and focus on the APCs first. Killing those first will minimize the losses to my shock troopers. Stormcaller comes down. I unfortunately was unable to save that husk. I do have a Eradicate Hexpod. I'm a little bit behind now. As you'll see, I'll use a radar scan, and the GDI player has so much compared to me at this point. A fully established expansion. I myself have that one ref, but nothing there harvesting. And if you look at the tip field situation, even my second field has more Tiberium on it compared to him. So what am I going to do at this point? Well, I'm going to play it out. I'm not going to quit. Things are looking pretty dire. Storm column to defend. Fortunately, it's just a handful of APCs. Nonetheless, pretty annoying. And those Predator tanks as well, pretty lethal with that railgun upgrade. Eradicate Hexpod moving in that. If it gets a couple kills, can fund me. 15% of units value killed by the Eradicate Hexpod gets recycled into resources for me. I see a couple grenadiers. Those are going to be researched with the EMP grenade upgrade. Cannot stick around there. One way to combat that as Scrin is to build gunwalkers now. Only one grenade gets thrown by the EMP grenades now. And that is to prevent one squad from disabling a shielded unit. Before it would throw two grenades, the first one would land a millisecond before the second one. That meant the shield was pinged off and also the unit was EMP'd. A little bit counterintuitive, and that's why it was changed. So Eradicate Hexpod, I decide to turn back with that, and now I'm going to start queuing some Devastator warships upon seeing these Grenadier squads. EMP gets thrown, and I'm building some tripods. But I think my opponent now mostly has infantry and APCs, so I don't really need to commit a lot into armor. If I can somehow thin my opponent's APC numbers down, then I can go back into infantry again. I don't think, me being on tier 3, that he would expect another infantry switch, considering how poorly the last one did. But I am making Devastators, and this is going to prompt one of two things. First thing, he could go for Slingshots with Tungsten Shells, which is a very powerful counter to Devastator warships. Or the more likely choice would be him going for Firehawks. So I was thinking in my opponent's shoes here. What would he do? Is seeing 2 gravity stabilizer Devastator warships, and it would be Firehawks. He'd probably go 2 airfield Firehawks at this point. So I'm gonna actually cancel my Devastators. I have 4 out now. That's sufficient to siege a base. And to support this force, I'm gonna go into a mass shock trooper transition. I can afford it because now I have double refinery on my expansion, and I can queue a lot of shock troopers from 4 portals. I'm not queuing any tier 3 unit. It's just shock troopers at this point. The Eradicator Hex Pod can buff them with an armor buff. The Recycler Radius buff also buffs infantry. I mentioned this in my previous video. And this is going to synergize really well with this infantry switch. So just look how many units I'm able to squeeze out so fast. And this is vital as well, because you want to give your opponent less time to react. So I have an opportunity here to push with all of these shock troopers, given how these were not scanned. He may think I have a couple and I'm building tripods. He's right to assume I'm building tripods. He'll most likely be going for mammoth tanks. The shields have been researched by me, so that's a costly upgrade for the Scrin, going for the force field generators, $4,000. And now I'm starting to throw down these growth accelerators, anticipating this game to go on longer. I'm going to anticipate the fight in the bottom field, which I'm preparing for, will not end the game. And seeing how I have these growth accelerator structures to give me a second lifeline later on, then I can outlast my opponent with that Scrin Eco. That's a plus 50% increase in the growth of Tiberium. So I've got this army here comprising of infantry, comprising of those tripods, and the Devastator warships, and just those 2 tripods there. Eradicator Hexbot will not be leading the charge, but I have to make use of all the time I can get, because my opponent will be frantically trying to respond to this attack. And now we have the engagement here. Firehawks come in. As I explained to you guys before, Commando had to be taken out by the Buzzard Swarm. I teleport that shock trooper to the front line. Orbital bombardment comes down. I avoid most of the damage by blinking away. APCs doing what they can. Watchtowers being deployed now versus the shock troopers. A lot of those shock troopers now going down. A shockwave artillery comes down as well. This is going to do devastating damage to my shock troopers if I don't micro those back. I counter that with a stasis shield, able to lock down the Marv. Grenadier Squad gets EMP'd, or rather destroyed before it lands that secondary EMP. I steal a Mammoth tank, and sadly for me, I do not have repair drones available to me to repair this mastermind, so we'll be injured. I'm going to use the tier 4 structure here to summon in the Overlord's Wrath on this army, and just look how crazy this engagement is here. Devastator warships in the back, dealing with those APCs, doing splash damage to those railgun units, and they're also going to be great against those watchtowers. He's not going to be able to build a wall of watchtowers to defend against this infantry, and the Predator tanks and Mammoth tanks cannot do anything versus that army of shock troopers. It might not look like a lot of shocks, but it's enough to force this army back. And I'm continuing to make them. I am bringing in resources as this fight is ongoing. Some zone troopers have been called in. Hammerhead on the front line gets a few kills on these shock troopers. Devastators keeping this force at bay, trying to target the zone troopers. Reinforcements now inbound. APCs I have to focus down first because they are the biggest threat to my army of shocks. And they're doing just that, and just look at the effectiveness of these shock troopers. Still able to deal damage despite this engagement lasting quite a while. Tripods as well, going to be great versus those APCs, and that's going to be GG. I had planetary assault carriers queued, I had tripods queued. I was going into heavy tier 3 after that fight. But yeah guys, I think that was basically the best example, the best demonstration of shock troopers in a game that I've ever had. That was an amazing Shock Trooper transition, and that was the reason why I wanted to highlight that game, not only for the unorthodox eco build that I did, which I'm going to improve in the future, but predominantly for the Shock Trooper transition. Shock Troopers, that game worked great, and that was a really great game in my opinion. Anyways guys, thank you very much for watching this one. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button, I'd really appreciate that. And before you leave, if you want to follow my channel and stay notified of when I'm going to upload next, then don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also check out my Twitch channel as well, I sometimes stream on there. And before I leave, thank you to all my patrons who are keeping this platform channel going, and also for supporting me and my patch as well as this game and keeping it going. So yeah, this is going to be it from me, Master Leaf, and I'll see you all later guys. Peace out.